Hello, beautiful people. Hello. Hello, Omni. Hello, Mudkip. Hello, Piranha. Hi, hi. I hope you're all doing well today. I'm feeling very perky because school holidays are over, which means I got to do singing lessons again. Not that I am a child, but the singing lesson school seems to be base itself around the school terms. So I had my singing lesson again yesterday, and I had a lot of fun. I love singing. It's so fun. But hello everyone. I hope you're doing well today. I'm very perky. Yes, I'm in very good mood, and I'm so excited to see more of Henny. Yippee singing, yes, yes. The song I'm trying to learn has a lot more note shifting. It has a lot of shifting from head voice to chest voice. And it has a lot more high notes that I'm very good at. Not very stable at getting to quite yet. Like, I can get to the high note, but consistently I can't quite yet. So that's what I'm working on with it right now. And I'm very excited to learn all those skills. Thank you for the head pat, Mudkip. Thank you. I'm glad to hear you're in a good mood. Yes, thank you, Omni. Thank you. I am in a good mood. There's something about singing that just makes me feel so alive. But let's get into it, guys. Let's get into it. It's my girl, Henny. I love her. She looks so cute in the sleepwear. Like, oh, adorable. Restless and agitated, Henny now found herself standing by the window. Suddenly, feeling claustrophobic, she unlatched it. Then she let her arms rest upon the sill and looked out into the streets. The sky outside was black as pitch and scattered with stars, the moon round and full. The moonlight played against Henny's cheek, turning it paler than it already was, while the cool breeze caressed her hair. One of the maids who slept closest to the window, Agnes, Henny thought her name was, stirred in her sleep, perhaps disturbed by the open window. Her eyelids, however, did not flutter. Henny afforded the girl only a brief glance before returning her gaze once more to the night sky. Somewhere out there, sequestered away in the woods, was Micah. Henny was certain that Micah lived still, and that, as surely as Henny was thinking of her friend was thinking of her. "Don't worry, Micah," Henny murmured this under her breath so as not to wake Walter's scullery maids, her face turned to the cold. "I've not forgotten you. I never will. I'll find a way to rescue you, with or without Herr Gerhardt's help. You don't need him, not when you have me. You know, I'm starting to think that you might have been right about him." Here, Henny allowed herself to smile, though the situation was not all that funny. "He isn't a worthy husband for you, and I don't give a damn that he can speak Latin. There are many, many other qualities I'd rather have in a man. You deserve much better." I love Henny so much. Ugh. The next few days passed with such an intolerable slowness that Micah felt as though she had been imprisoned in Magdalena's abode for a small eternity. It was hard for Micah to know the precise length of her incarceration, for she had no calendar to consult. She did not even know what precise hour it was, the carriage clock in her dusty morgue of a bedroom being frozen for all perpetuity at 10 minutes past midday, or midnight. During these dreary days, Micah fell into something of a routine. She awoke with the chirping of the birds, when shafts of sunlight were beginning to sneak through gaps in her curtains, cutting golden grooves against the aged carpet. Upon waking, Micah would discover a tray left on her bedside, laden with tea and pastries. Her breakfast always came with a brief imperative note, written in Magdalena's now familiar hand. Eat. Micah consumed her breakfast, then set about her ablutions. The SBR, you say it, right? Ablution? Ablution. Pronunciation.
Ablution.
I was right. It just feels wrong to say. She washed her face in the basin and her hair, then changed from her nightgown into one of the many dresses Magdalena had kindly bequeathed to her. After dressing, Micah would try the door handle, though with little hope. It was always locked. Left with little else to do, Micah whiled away her days reading. She devoured book after book as a starving man might a plate of warm, nourishing pie. Nothing was off limits for Micah, from chilling horror tales to sweeping romances, historical accounts to travel guides, philosophical tracts to collections of poetry. Micah did not much care what she read so long as it eased the drudgery of her waking hours. While reading, Micah was freed from her boredom, and worst of all her worries about Henny and her own looming fate, which dwelt beyond it. During the day, Micah's hostess was conspicuously absent, doubtless sleeping in her own chamber, protected from the sunlight. It wasn't until the night fell that Magdalena put in an appearance in Micah's chamber, her hands laden with Micah's dinner. Magdalena sat upon Micah's bed to observe her while she ate, and from time to time she would talk, her voice light and lilting, and almost sweet. Magdalena asked Micah about the books she had been reading, and though Micah had been initially reluctant, she found herself responding. Part of Micah feared if she did not talk, her vocal cords would begin to rust from disuse, much like the keyhole that sealed her windows shut. She needed some opportunity to speak aloud, to assure herself that she was still alive despite all of the odds. In time, too, Micah found that she was not speaking to Magdalena solely from a sense of obligation. Magdalena's company was not entirely unpleasant, when she tactfully chose not to remind Micah of her plans to eat her, that was. No, Micah, you don't get it. It's how vampires flirt, okay? She's trying to flirt. Magdalena had not spoke of drinking Micah's blood for several days, however. It seemed almost as though she had forgotten about it, content instead to play at being hostess. Micah had once fegged Magdalena, but as the day passed, her anxiety began to wane. It was hard work being on edge all the time. Oh, don't I know it. Magdalena was so unfailingly polite, Micah sometimes caught herself wondering whether they might have been friends had they met under other circumstances. But then Micah would catch Magdalena's gaze and see once more how red her eyes were, as red as violence, and she would start. Magdalena had not killed her yet, but she surely would. Someday soon, perhaps. She would tire of talking about Goethe, and Schlegel, and Eckermann, and then she would show her true colours. She would take Micah's jaw betwixt her gloved fingers, then bring her teeth to Micah's throat. Then she would bite, and she would drink. Micah's blood would be drained from her body until she turned cold, numb and still and insensible. How could they ever hope to be friends under such circumstances? They could not even be acquaintances. It was unthinkable that anything could develop between them. They were nothing but a captor and a captive, a jailer and a prisoner. Micah was at Magdalena's mercy, but sometimes, when Magdalena spoke to her, Micah thought she could detect something in her gaze which spoke not of bloodlust, but of loneliness. It was during times like these that Micah thought they mightn't have been so very dissimilar after all. It was later that night that Magdalena paid a visit to Micah, when the sun had set and the sky beyond Micah's bedroom window was black as pitch. Magdalena looked unusually apologetic as she let herself into Micah's room, with a light shuffling of footsteps and the familiar click of the door which she locked behind her. After slipping the key into her pocket, she turned to face Micah and spoke. "I think you know why I'm here. I have put this off for much too long as it is, and now it is time to take from you what I want." Magdalena inhaled, then took a few steps forth, her red eyes heavy with the seriousness of the situation. "I brought you here for a purpose. It is past time I've fulfilled it. I must confess, however, that I do not feel good at all about treating such a lovely young woman so roughly. Typically, I pursue bandits and highwaymen, brigands whom deserve every iota of misfortune I inflict upon them. These are criminals, often petty crooks. Nobody would miss. I make the world a better place, or so I like to tell myself, by disposing of them. But I cannot tell myself the same in regards to you. This is a first for me, so forgive me if I am somewhat awkward. I've been unsure how exactly to proceed. But proceed I must. I only hope you do not take it too personally. I have no genuine desire to harm you." "Then why do it?" The question was so soft it seemed to lose its way in Micah's darkened bedchamber. Part of Micah doubted it would reach Magdalena's ears, and indeed it took the other woman a while to react. But react in time she did. "I do it because I must. It is in my nature to cause others pain. Preying upon humans is simply what my kind must do if we wish to keep on living. Try not to worry overly, though, if you can help it. I'm not sadistic. I won't cause you any greater pain than I need to, and I won't kill you either. There's more I wish to take from you yet, before I turn you into a corpse." Magdalena drew back the curtains to better illuminate Micah's chamber with the moon's milky glow, then took a seat upon the edge of the bed. The vampire reached for Micah's arm, her gloved fingers slicing through the darkness. Her digits soon seized upon Micah's wrist, as firm and immovable as steel. "Oh, more beautiful artwork, I swear. You could take any art piece from this and put it in a museum. They're genuinely so gorgeous." Her grip was hard, yet she was surprisingly gentle when she turned Micah's arm upwards to reveal the white skin of her palm, her wrist. Micah had always been pale, yet she appeared even more so in the moonlight. Her skin was as smooth as the interior of a conch shell, and Magdalena sighed to see it. "You really are pretty. It almost seems a shame to mark your skin or sully it. But spoiling things is all I'm good for. At least you'll be able to hide your injuries beneath your sleeves come the morning light." "What?" Micah looked at Magdalena, her expression uncomprehending. Magdalena was only inches apart from her, their faces so close Micah could see how Magdalena's eyelids trembled. Magdalena was devoid of all the self-righteous pomp with which she usually conducted herself. She seemed contrite, guilty as a young child caught out by an angry parent. Micah felt for her, but still she worried about her own fate. Did Magdalena mean to bite her? Surely she must. That was the whole reason behind her visit at so late an hour. Micah did not understand why Magdalena was examining her arm, however, like an antiquarian. There we go. Might inspect an old necklace. "Aren't you, Micah swallowed. "Aren't you going to drain my blood?" Oh no, honey. This is part of the romance of a vampire, is that they have to be contrite and upset about drinking your blood, even though they're not going to kill you about it. They're only going to have a little bitty bit. Indeed I am. Must I make my intentions so plain? Magdalena smiled, but her voice was dry when next she spoke. For all the books you read, your intelligence is nothing to boast about, Micah. I just thought I would clarify. I don't understand, though. What isn't there to understand? It is quite a simple process to comprehend, really. Observe. Magdalena reached for the table, then lifted a strange, silvery blade. Micah supposed she must have kept it upon her as an assassin might. The blade sharp and silver in the moonlight. Magdalena pressed the blade of the knife to the inside of Micah's arm, a few inches below the bend of her elbow, then said, I will cut you with this knife, and you will bleed. Then I will collect your blood in a dish I brought with me for this very purpose. Oh. Oh, chat, I'm getting a bit dizzy. Hang on. I'm gonna go get an ice pack. Hang on, chat. Okay. I'm gonna have my headphones off for a bit while I have an ice pack on my head. So I won't be able to hear the beautiful music, alas. But it may be able to bring me out at the moment. For those who aren't aware, I have an intense traumatic reaction to... Thank you for the head pats, Omni. I have an intense traumatic reaction to needles. It is so intense that I have specifically a fear of exposing the elbow pit, the area where she is collecting blood from. Like, even in the summer, I feel myself needing to wear heavy enough sleeves to cover it so I feel safe, so like a random needle isn't going to attack me or something. And I overheat when I'm stressed, so I got an ice pack. And not having the music will hopefully pull some of the immersion of the scene away from me. Sorry to hear that. Yeah, it's quite a struggle. I actually can't get vaccines or anymore, which makes me really scared. It's quite distressing, and it's really frustrating that I can't just say, hey, this is a real barrier for me and I can't meet the safety that I would like to meet. I can't get vaccines because of this. Could you just tick a box on my file that says I get to get I get some gas that makes me pass out, so that you can do it while I'm passed out, and then at least it will be done and I won't have to be like present for it, because every time I try and get them done, I have a seizure, and they won't do it if I have a seizure, but they won't put that in my file, so I just can't get vaccines or blood tests done. Last time I got a blood test done, I got it done privately. I had to get it done to get some tests done to clear up whether or not I have the disability that I have, so I could actually get it verified. Because if I don't have it verified by like a specialist or something, I'm less likely to get support from the government for my disability. And I went privately because that was the only way to get them to use the gas on me to help me pass out. And it cost thousands on thousands of dollars and it was not cheap, and I can't do that regularly for just like things that I'm concerned about for my health, that I just want to have a look at my blood results. So I was not expecting, like, generally this is not like the where vampires collect blood. Usually it is the wrist or the neck or some other sexy area. This is quite uncommon. Let's get through it. We can do this. We can do this, or we can pass out. We'll see. I've passed out in a call with a friend before. It's fine, chat. You're fine with that, right? It's all good. I joke, I kid. It is an unusual ritual, yes. Oh, no, we've already done that line. I understand, but here's what I'll do. Hang on, chat. Here's what I'll do. I have put a jumper over the screen so I can't see it, and I'll just lift it a bit if I want to read. my excellent skills of saving my mental health. Put clothing over it. Put fabric over it. Oh, thank you, Omni. Thank you for the support. I do appreciate it. I don't want this trauma to control my life. So I don't want to give up on this beautiful story. Micah gasped, her breath catching in her throat as Magdalena pressed the knife's edge to her skin. Magdalena had not pressed hard enough to lacerate her, not yet at least, but the knife was hard and unyielding, and the promise of pain made Micah shiver. You always support me, so it's the least I can do? That's, honestly, that's very cool. That's the kind of thing, that's the kind of person I try and be. I thought it'd be biting me, not cutting me. That's what I thought too, Micah. Biting is a lot, biting would be a lot safer for me mentally, Micah. Micah looked at Magdalena's mouth. Her fangs were obscured, hidden beneath behind her pursed lips. But Micah had seen them often enough to know how sharp they were. Magdalena's teeth had been made to rend human flesh. Why then would she resort to a knife? It seemed an unnecessary layer of obfuscation to the act of bloodletting. This may be a short stream because of this, I fear. But we will get through this scene, and then we'll see how we feel. Perhaps it was to assuage Magdalena's guilt about what it was she was to do, or perhaps... My. Magdalena smiled, her carmine lips splitting to reveal her wickedly sharp incisors. What is this, Micah? Do you wish me to bite you? No, that isn't it. I don't wish it. Of course I don't. But I thought that was what vampires were supposed to do. Is that not what you are known for? I suppose we are, in all the folk stories and the legends, but I prefer to take a more pragmatic approach. Pragmatic? Oh. Magdalena nodded. It's much more practical to cut you. The wound will be easier to clean and it will heal more quickly. It will be less painful too. You will thank me for my reticence, I am sure, when we have finished here. Yeah, I'm okay. I was adjusting the jumper. It was adjusting the jumper so it was easier to read. Hang on, I should take a photo of my beautiful blocking technique and put it in the Discord. It's very funny. Oh, that was my ice pack going over my head. Like, the comedy of this is very amusing. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, it's very goofy. It does add to the comedy of the situation. I'm not gonna lie, it is helping. If I were to sink my fangs into you, I fear I wouldn't be able to stop myself. Your blood smells so very sweet. I would be obliged to suck you dry. I would like things to last just a touch longer than that. You don't wish to be drained of all you have in one single session, do you? All the build-up would be for naught then. Magdalena's really intense and has very strict rules about foreplay. Micah shook her head, shivering. I don't wish to be drained at all. I know you don't. I don't much blame you either. Here, Magdalena's good humour seems to fail her. She sighs, her eyes half-lidded, the frown slip-sliding from her face like melting snow come the springtime. I don't much want to do this either, but I have no choice, as I said. This is what I must do as a vampire. I might defy our legends in some regards. I am not wholly typical of my kind, but I am still a monster in the end. Now, sit still and do try not to squirm. I have no desire to make this more painful than it needs to be. Magdalena angled her hand so as to press the blade of the knife more snugly to Micah's skin. Inhale deeply now, one big breath. Yes, just like that. That's a good girl. This will be over before you know it. Magdalena was as good as her word, too. Mike had scarce inhaled, drinking in a lungful of stagnant air when Magdalena made her move. She drew the knife across the inside of Micah's arm, the blade sinking deep into her skin. Ah! Micah exhaled, shocked, as a sharp, stinging sensation coursed through her. It was painful, yes, but not so painful as she had feared. Magdalena had been quick about her incision, and precise with it too, her motions as well practised as a surgeon's. Depositing the knife upon Micah's bedside, the blade of which was tarnished with spilled blood, Magdalena then set a bowl beneath Micah's arm to collect her ill-gotten goods. The bowl was a shallow one, and soon it was half full with blood, thick and viscous, and redder even than Magdalena's eyes. I remember when I was a kid, it's actually up until very recently, I should say, I got blood noses so fucking frequently. I'm a frequent blood nose girly. And every time it would happen, as an effort to comfort me, my mother would go, well, look what a nice healthy red it is at least. And it was so funny. Because blood noses, if anything, are just annoying and messy. So it was very funny, her saying that. Micah watched on as Magdalena drained her, her breath caught in her throat. She could feel the pain, by God it stung, yet it happened so suddenly she scarcely registered it. She felt no sense of loss as Magdalena drained her, nor any real wrongdoing. She was shocked instead, too stunned to know how she ought to respond. Goodness! Magdalena sighed as she observed Micah's blood, which was pooled in the bottom of the bowl, like a profane offering to a pagan god. Your blood is so very red, Micah, and it is so very pretty. I suppose I could try a drop of it or two of it myself to see whether it tastes as good as it looks. But no, I must abstain. That ought to be enough for tonight at least. You bled well for me, Micah, and you bore your burden with the grace one might expect of a true noble woman. You did not even scream, though I saw you wince. I ought to commend you for that. Men stronger than you have screamed when faced with far less. Scene's over. We're safe. We made it through. We did it, gamers. We did it. I didn't have a seizure. I'm so strong and cool with it. I'm going to be using this for all other triggering material that I try to watch in the future. It's a little bit more difficult to use this technique with moving imagery. It only really works with visual novels, I must say. Now, hey, feel free to use my technique in the future if you guys read visual novels and you have upsetting triggers. Yeah. Usually, when I am pushed into that traumatic zone, I will have a seizure. But we made it through. I used all my techniques. I got an ice pack. I drank plenty of water and fluids. I took my headphones off to take some of the immersion away of the scene, which helps a lot, honestly. Audio is crazy at, like, keeping you in the moment, which is amazing. It's really cool. It's very cool. But it's also, if you think about it, that's a cool trick to think. Remember, if you want to alleviate the upsettingness of something, is you remove the audio. That can help a lot. We did it! No seizure on stream. Today. Maybe another time, I guess. I shouldn't say that. That's so mean. I would upset a lot of people. Oh. I have to take it. I have to be silly with it, or you have to be silly with it. Magdalena set the bowl aside along with the dirtied knife and drew her cloak protectively about her slender shoulders. Thank you for being there for me, Omni. I do appreciate that. Micah was afraid for a few moments that Magdalena meant to leave her already, her task fulfilled. But no. Magdalena rose once again, drawing shut the curtains, almost as if she could not bear to let the moon witness what pain she had wrought upon Micah. This completed, she turned her attention to the basin which rested upon the writing desk. The basin was filled with water from earlier that morning, which Micah had used to wash her face, though it was cold by now. Magdalena drew from her pocket a handkerchief, which she dipped in the cool water in the basin. Then she turned back to Micah and introduced a damp cloth to Micah's cut. Ah! Micah hissed to feel the fabric against her wound, and Magdalena replied with a small smile. I'm sorry, Micah. I know this hurts, but please try to bear it. It's for your own good. It would not do if your wound were to be infected. Magdalena dabbed at Micah's wound as carefully as a nurse might, her head bowed. Micah watched her work, frowning, her skin tingling both at the pain and at the unusual gentleness which Magdalena was displaying. She did not know how Magdalena could touch her so carefully when only a few moments prior she had slid the blade of a knife into her flesh. It was an awful contradiction, one Micah did not understand at all. It's called aftercare, sweetie. Why? Micah gasped while her cut stung, then she tried again, her voice barely more than a whisper. Why are you acting so kindly? It seems unusual. For a vampire. It is unusual for a vampire, but I never professed to being like the majority of my kin. I hope I have not proven to be too much of a disappointment. I'm not disappointed, really. Oh, good. I was starting to worry. I thought that you might prefer something more traditional. A spell in the dungeon, perhaps? And a few broken bones? But I am confused. You say you don't wish to harm me, but you do so regardless. It seems rather contradictory. Yes, you would be right there. It is a contradiction, but what can I do? My whole existence hinges upon such vast fallacies in logic. I am dead, yet I am also alive. I am a monster, but I still possess feelings. And though I must drink blood to survive, I do not truly wish to harm innocents, least of all you. It is quite the conundrum. I've had over a century to dwell upon it, but I doubt you will have the same luxury. You humans aren't particularly durable. Micah certainly felt delicate as Magdalena cleaned her. Magdalena was being gentle, yet the brush of her fingertips made her shudder regardless. She simply could not help herself. Once satisfied that the bleeding had stopped, Magdalena drew back and deposited her handkerchief back in her pocket. Retrieving both the knife and the bowl of Micah's blood, which she had laid to rest upon her bedside table, she turned to the door. Now I must depart. Sweet dreams, my dear Micah. If you are able to sleep, of course, after the excitement of the night. I hope you are able to, despite my rudeness. I wish I could say this would be the last time I would demand so much of you, but... Somberly, Magdalena sighed. I do not want to lie to you or to give you false hope. That would be a cruelty not even I could perform without flinching. It was with this final remark that Magdalena finally departed. Micah watched from her bed, cradling her arm in her hand as she left the room, the door closing behind her with a thud. Micah listened as Magdalena's footsteps, feather-light, receded from beyond her bedroom door, then vanished altogether. Micah supposed she should have felt relieved now that Magdalena had gone, but it was quite the opposite. Her inner arm still stung and her mind raced, full of frantic thoughts. Her room felt quieter after Magdalena's departure. And for some reason, it felt far, far lonelier. While Micah convalesced that night, wearied by Magdalena's visit, Magdalena herself could be found in a darkened bedchamber, sitting at the bedside of a shadowy figure. Oh! A shadowy figure! Ooh! A mystery! A mystery! Magdalena held a bowl in both hands, which was full of a viscous, sticky liquid, dark red in actuality, but rendered almost black in the darkness. Here you are, my dear. I've brought this for you. I do hope it is to your liking. It should be different from the blood of bandits, at least. The woman who I took it from is very sweet. I would not be surprised if her blood is similarly sumptuous. You'll like it, I'm sure of that. I know you're hard to please, but not even you can turn your nose up at this. Please. Magdalena's voice wavered. She sighed, and sadly she looked away. Drink it and be satisfied. I can't give you more than this. Not for tonight, at least. I fear I might have taken too much from her already. I don't want to hurt her, but... Magdalena inhaled. Her eyes, which accustomed to the dark, narrowed, her red pupils roving over those of her charge. I would do it, you know, for your sake. I would do anything for you. You mean the world to me. I just wish... Oh, I wish... Magdalena shivered as her beloved began to sup from the bowl she offered. Their head bowed, lips parted like a hungry animal. Hi, Hydra! It is you, the viewer of low value that the bots speak of? No! Every viewer of mine is of high quality value, purely by being one of mine. Every viewer of mine is a viewer of luxury and splendor because they are in my presence. I just wish it didn't have to be this way. Mike had suffered in the culmination of the past 2 weeks, but she was not unique in this. Henny too was suffering, albeit in better circumstances than her poor mistress. It's Henny time! Everyone cheer and clap and woo! Yay! It's Henny! Henny had been recuperating in Walter Gerhardt's home ever since her frantic escape from Magdalena's abode. She had spent the first week of her stay lying abed in the servants' quarters, unable to conceive of doing anything more strenuous than existing. The horror she had witnessed during the night of the bandits' attack had left her nigh on insensible, her body dull and leaden. Hee hee, it's my girl! During this week, the local constabulary, I fucking hate that word. They're a constable, guys. They're a cop. Had arrived to ask Henny questions about all she'd witnessed in the forest. Henny had answered as honestly as she could, or at least as honestly as Walter had permitted. Henny had wanted to tell the police about Magdalena and her inhuman strength, but how could she? If Walter had not believed her, it seemed very unlikely the police would, particularly when Walter had a vested interest in Micah's affairs. Surely, as a bereaved groom-to-be, he should have seized upon any chance to reunite with his fiancée, no matter how implausible the circumstances surrounding said chance seemed. You get it, you get it, you get it, Hydra. You get it, you get why Henny is the woman. She is the one. Any long-term viewer of me will know that I love a big woman. Whether it be soft big woman or muscular big woman, I like a big woman. She's just precious. She is ticking my boxes. Her face is all slick uses, so I want to poke it lovingly. It is so cute, isn't it? She is precious. You back to shadows now? Oh, Eve. Bye-bye. Little shadowy Eve. Well, Walter did not seem to care overly much about Micah's disappearance, though if he did, he did not show it to Henny. Well, no. Of course he doesn't give a shit about her. He's a man of logic and reason. He knows that he can buy any other woman with his money if he pleases. He doesn't need her. He only sought her out because of the title, I bet, because he's a self-made man. He's not a man who already has a title from birth. He just wanted her because he could get the prestige of having a title out from marrying her, so he could just find another woman who is poor but has a title. He doesn't need her. He can find another one. Women are disposable to men like this. His tears, if indeed he had the capacity to cry, were all shed in private away from prying eyes. In any case, Henny told the police only of the bandits and of the murder of Lord and Lady von Essen. She told them that she had run from the carriage, Micah in tow, and during their escape they became separated, which was not a complete lie. It was very late at night, you see, and foggy with it. I couldn't hardly see anything. I was holding Lady Micah's hand, but I was so afraid I ran on ahead. When my senses had returned and I stopped to look behind me, I couldn't see Lady Micah anywhere. She just up and vanished. The pair of police officers had asked Henny if she'd heard anything suggesting a struggle or else her mistress's screams. But to this Henny stubbornly shook her head. I know what you're implying, and no, I didn't hear any such thing. I don't think the bandits got their filthy mitts on my mistress. I'm sure she escaped, but I've not a clue where she might be right now. She could still be wandering the woods for all I know, just like a nomad. Oh, I can hardly stomach the thought. My poor mistress deserves much better than that. Please, good sirs, I know my mistress is still alive. She must be. Lady Micah might have looked delicate, but she was surprisingly strong. She was quite the tomboy when she was little. She was always getting into scraps. A woman like that wouldn't simply die. She just wouldn't. It's impossible. Henny asked the officers to search for her beloved Micah, and they assured her that they would do everything in their power to help. If by divine providence your mistress still lives, then we will find her. Searching for missing persons is our job. These cops are okay, I guess. You've no need to trouble yourself on the matter further, Fraulein. It was something, Henny supposed, in the wake of the officers' visits, but their reassurances had not left her feeling particularly cheered. Henny had been able to tell that the constables, like Walter, thought that Micah was a lost cause. Ah, I'm sorry, hun. Henny did not doubt that local constabulary, fucking hate that word. That word is out to get me. That word I have a vendetta against, I think now. Would send some officers into the woods to search for a body, but their perfunctory efforts would fail. They would find Lord and Lady von Essen slumped in their carriage, but Micah would be absent. The police could comb the forest as thoroughly as they wished, but any search undertaken with so little information seemed doomed to fail. Henny knew as surely as she knew of her own mother's birthday that Augsburg's officers would never find Micah. Micah's body was not lying on the forest floor, abandoned, curled up and cut apart by bandits. Micah was, instead, at Magdalena's mercy in her airy abode deep in the heart of the forest. Whether Micah was still alive was a mystery, but Henny wanted to believe Micah lived still. She had to believe that. She could not bear the thought of her mistress being tortured. Henny feared she might have to countenance such a thought, however, as the days passed, and she heard nothing of the police's investigation. Though Henny was familiar with the phrase, no news is good news, she rather feared that in this case, no news meant that nothing was being done. Nobody seemed to care for Micah other than Henny herself, but she could do nothing on her own. Growing desperate, Henny had attempted once more to impress upon Walter the seriousness of Micah's situation, but he refused to listen. Oh my God, I noticed he has a portrait of himself behind his desk. What kind of egotistical maniac does that? He sits at his desk working, someone comes in to talk to him, and you see him sitting at his desk, and then behind him is a massive portrait of himself. What the fuck? What the fuck? What kind of weirdness? That's supposed to be him? Yeah, that's crazy. What a crazy decor choice. You would come into my office and talk of bloodsuckers again? Walter asked of her, his expression one of cultivated disdain. I understand that you suffered a nasty tumble in the forest, Frau Henrike. But it has been a week since then. I would have hoped that you would have regained some of your senses since then. I assure you, Egerhard, I'm quite sensible. I'm trying to tell you the truth. Micah was kidnapped by a vampire. Yes, I know. You've said twice now. You are very adamant about your claims, I must admit. It's almost impressive in a way. But you are labouring under a misapprehension. Vampires do not exist. Ergo, a vampire could not have captured my Micah. They are the stuff of stories. But... not another word. I'll not have you contradicting me in my own home, Frau Henrike. I took you in because I thought it the right thing to do. Please, do not make me regret my act of philanthropy. You can continue to remain here if you wish for as long as you like. But while you are subsiding upon my kindness, you must abide by my rules. I won't have you bandying about vampires in my home and distressing my servants. They are impressionable enough as it is without you further exciting them with your wild stories. But they're not stories. Not to you, perhaps, but that is part of the problem. You do not want to be taken to an asylum, do you? Of course not. Then you would do well to hold your tongue. Silence is golden. But what about Micah? Will you not at least try to look for her? The police are trying. That is their job. It would not behoove me to get in their way. I am sure they will turn Micah's body up sooner or later, if there is a body to be found. As for this talk of ferreting out this vampire's secret hidey hole, well... impossibilium nulla obligato est. I fucking hate how he just spouts Latin lines at us all the time like we're supposed to know what it means. I'm gonna Google it this time. Hang on. Impossibilium... oh, okay. There is no obligation to do the impossible. So he says these quotes in Latin to sound smart and like cool. And I hate it. I hate it. Pisses me off so much. Like, he does this to the serving people too, who don't have the same education as him, so they don't know what the fuck he's saying. So he doesn't sound cool. He sounds like a complete weirdo. But they just had to put up with it because he's their boss. It's so annoying. Now you may leave. I'm a busy man and I've a good deal of work to attend to. Out! Out! And that had been the end of that. God, he pisses me off. Chat, we need to kill him. We need to kill him. Oh my god. I want this man obliterated. Swiftly dismissed by Walter, Henny had stalked through the hallways of his home, all the while burning with the shame and the anger of it all. Regardless of whether he believes her or not, he's such a piece of shit that it pisses me off. How dare Walter treat Micah's welfare in so cavalier a manner? Why, it was almost as if he thought her welfare did not concern him, as though he had not been poised to marry her and inherit her family's august title. That, Henny had thought bitterly, was all Walter had ever cared about. He had not loved Micah as she did, because Micah was Micah. He had loved Micah only for her status. He had loved her because she was von Essen. Oh, how quickly love could vanish when its foundations were so flimsy. Henny supposed there was a fancy Latin saying to express this sentiment, but if there was, she didn't know it. She was only not half so learned as Walter with all those books and all those pomp, but at least she had a heart. One which was currently bleeding for her mistress's sake. With no strings of her own to pull, the police incompetent and Walter well and truly alienated, Henny had known not what next to do. I'll help you, Henny. I'll stab a vampire for you, even if she is hot. I'll kill her. Henny had spent the following week ruminating at a loss. She felt well enough now to move, and so she did. Henny had begun to feel her fellow maidservants tend to the household chores in Walter's home for want of anything better to do, though she was not one of Walter's official employees. Moving her hands gave her some relief from the thoughts which whirred in her head, and Henny was acquainted enough with housework that these mundane, repetitive tasks were almost welcome. Beating carpets and polishing banisters reminded Henny of a simpler, happier time, when she had walked for Lord and Lady von Essen, and during her breaks had sneaked into Micah's room to play cards with her. Micah had always lost at cards. She had been hopeless at it. Her ability to tell lies had been almost non-existent, but she had told many lies for Henny's sake. She had risked her own life for that of her maid. Would any other mistress have been so kind? Henny did not imagine that Micah's mother, the indomitable Lady von Essen, would. She was the kind of woman who would have drowned puppies to save her own neck. Not that her ruthless calculations had done her much good in the end. She had died, but Micah had not. Not yet, at least. That was what Henny hoped. With each day that passed, however, it grew harder to cling on to this hope of hers, which had begun to look rather fragile. It was easier for Henny to endure her anxieties while the sun was still up and she still had chores to attend to. At night, however, as she lay in bed in the darkened servants' quarters, her fears began to crowd in about her. Micah was never far from Henny's mind, but it was impossible to completely extricate her young mistress from her thoughts during quiet moments such as these. Scored by the slow, soothing sighs of 6 other women, all curled beneath their thin covers dreaming their own domestic dreams, Henny thought. She was so lost in thoughts on one particular night, however, that she failed to hear the creak of floorboards beneath her, and as such nearly jumped out of her skin when a soft voice called to her from the shadows. "Oh! It's a cute girl!" Cute girl, let's go. Is Henny going to get a wife too? I'm okay with polyamory, that's fine. Are you alright? Oh! Henny gasped in surprise and wheeled about, her elbow bumping against the chipped sill with a dull thud. The collision of elbow against windowsill was a loud one, but Henny's resultant curses were louder still. Damn it! A couple of the maids shifted at this, their eyelids fluttering, but they did not awake, not a single one of them. They must have been exhausted by the tasks they had to perform day in, day out, under Gertrude's watchful gaze. Walter Gerhardt mightn't have cared for his missing fiancée, but he cared a good deal about the running of his home, and he had ordered Gertrude to be exacting in her duties as a housekeeper. See, that's what I thought. The strictness doesn't come from Gertrude, it comes from his expectations, absolutely. She is just meeting those expectations well. His maidservants were all run ragged, and Henny was no exception to this. Goodness me! The owner of the timid voice who had startled Henny so exclaimed, then started forwards. A shaft of moonlight fell upon the mysterious interloper's face, and Henny soon divined they were not so very mysterious after all. The speaker was none other than Agnes. I like Agnes. Agnes is a solid name. Agnes is a sturdy name to me. It's a good name. I know it's fallen out of favour because it's old-fashioned, but I think it's very sturdy and good. Agnes Becker was a small, slender thing, about 15 or 16 years of age, with a shock of fiery red hair, rather like Micah's, that did not at all match her reserved personality. Her snub nose was smattered liberally with freckles, and her eyes were brown like those of a doe. Henny had made little effort ingratiating herself with Walter's servants. It seemed a waste, given she had no intentions of remaining in his household. But she had grown rather fond of Agnes, despite herself being during the last 2 weeks. It was hard not to be fond of Agnes when she was so sweet, and so gentle, and so eager to please. Though, Henny thought grimly, she did not feel at all that fond of her now, with her elbow smarting as it did. I'm very sorry. Agnes mumbled this apology to her feet, her fingers twined together at her front. She was wearing a nightgown, a white shapeless thing made of flannel that seemed several sizes too large for her. It swamped Agnes's diminutive form, making her appear even smaller than she already was. I didn't mean to startle you. I only saw that you were awake and well. I'm also awake, as you can clearly see. Yes, I can see. It might be dark, but I do have eyes. And ears alongside them. Right, of course, I'm sorry. That was silly of me to say. I always seem to say silly things. The other maids say I must have porridge for brains, and maybe they're right. Little idiot, Hermione calls me, and I think she's right. But I'm getting carried away again. Sorry. Agnes flushed, and her whole face seemed to catch fire, her cheeks and her hair a bright striking red. I have been finding it hard to sleep lately myself. I've not been here all that long, and I'm missing my parents, and... Oh, but that's not important. I actually want to talk to you about you, not about myself. I've wanted to talk to you for a while, actually. If you don't mind, that is. Well, that depends on what you want to talk about. Oh, well... I hope this doesn't seem like too much of an opposition. I don't want to pry, really, but I've been wondering. You, were attacked by bandits, weren't you? At least that's what I heard. Hermione was talking about it. I don't know if it's true or not, though. Hermione says a lot of things. She's an awful gossip. I thought that might have been one of her silly stories. It almost sounds too dramatic to be real. Henny surveyed Agnes mutely for a few moments, unblinking. Walter had warned Henny not to speak of that night among his maids, for fear of exciting them, a warning Henny had tried to adhere to. She possessed no desire to make an enemy of Walter Gerhardt, not when she had been hoping to form an alliance with him. This had been before Walter's second insensitive dismissal of Henny's worries, however. Now the young maid knew Walter could not be persuaded. He was an arrogant bully of a man, and Henny no longer cared tuppence for him. She could have preferred to keep out of trouble, but it wasn't as though Henny had spoken of her experiences with the other maids. She had been stone-lipped about the night the bandits had ransacked Lord and Lady von Essen's carriage, and about her and Micah's escape. If the other maids had guessed what had happened through hearsay and whispered rumours, Henny could hardly be blamed for it. She would only be confirming what Agnes already suspected, and so it was, after a pause, that Henny replied, No, Hermione is right. I really was chased by a bunch of rotten bandits, and so was my poor mistress. Goodness! I was sure Hermione was making things up again, but... Does that mean there really are bandits out there in the woods? Agnes cast an uneasy glance out of the window, then shuddered. I've no need to go into the woods myself. My parents always warned me it was dangerous, but it's scary to think about all the same. It was scary to live through too, I assure you. But I reckon it was much worse for my mistress. Oh yes, I'm sure it would have been. I'm sorry. I'm glad you're all right at least, but your mistress... That must have been difficult. It was, yes. It still is. Do you think about her a lot? Every single day. I see. I'm sorry for asking so many questions. I'm just curious is all. I've never met anybody who was attacked by bandits before. It must have been terrifying. I just hope I don't seem tactless. Hermione says I talk before I think, but Hermione is rude to everybody. Even Frau Schreiber. It's all right. You can be more tactless than your employer is. At least you actually seem to care. You mean Herr Gerhardt? That's right. Did you ever quarrel with him? Hermione said he'd been shouting at you in his office last week, but I don't know if I believe that either. Herr Gerhardt is strict, but he isn't such a bad man. There are worse employers, and it was nice of him to let you stay here. I don't think he means ill. Maybe he doesn't mean any ill, but I don't know if he means any good either. That's important. That's important. Just because someone doesn't mean to be mean, doesn't mean they're meaning to be good either. Sometimes they're still shit. Because of the fact that they don't care. Even if not caring is like a neutral aspect. I think that not caring about someone's existence is like a neutral, like, sort of state. Being dismissal of someone else's situation is not neutral. But, like, not really thinking about someone else as a human is neutral if you're not actually close to them. It's hard to explain, I think. I don't know if I'm making sense. Like, you can't care about everyone you meet, you know? So it's kind of neutral to not care. Or, like, have, like, a place in your heart for them. But, like, this wouldn't be a stranger to Gerhardt. So that's the problem. Herr Gerhardt only seems to care about Herr Gerhardt, which is fine, I'll fancy, if you're a businessman and you're trying to get things done. Treating your fiancé in such a flippant way, however, I think that's downright wicked. So you two did have an argument. We did, yes. I didn't know anybody had overheard it, though. It was supposed to be private. I'm afraid nothing stays private for very long around here. It took Hermione less than a week to sniff out my family's deepest secrets, though how she did it, I've no idea. She seems to know absolutely everything that happens in this place. Do you think she's listening to us right now? Henny glanced at Hermione's bed, which was located next to Agnes's, the second along from the window. The famous Hermione herself was lying beneath her covers, curled up, her copper hair spooled across her pillow like a tangle of snakes. Henny had spoken little to the maids under Walter's employ, but even she was aware of Hermione. She appeared of an age with Henny, perhaps slightly older, and she was so stunningly beautiful she seemed almost otherworldly. Though a maid, Hermione possessed an attitude more appropriate for a duchess. She often ignored her tasks to gossip with the other maids, a fact which frustrated Gertrude no end. Gertrude was forever having stern words with Hermione, who never seemed to take any of it to heart. For the amount of times she found herself in hot water, Hermione had yet to be properly scolded. Henny had to wonder why Hermione had not been dismissed from Walter Gerhardt's household. But perhaps Walter had a soft spot for her. Yeah, that's what, as soon as I heard, was like, she's pretty. As soon as the writing said she's pretty, and she doesn't really do a lot of work, I was like, oh, maybe that's Walter's real beau. You know, maybe that's Walter's real side piece. That's Walter's side piece. That's his real focus. Wasn't hard to see why. One only needed to look at Hermione's face. She looked eerily like Micah. So much so they could have been sisters. Walter Gerhardt must have had a type. I think she's asleep. Agnes spoke while looking at the dozing Hermione, but her voice was uncertain. Frowning, Agnes turned her back on Hermione and said, Hermione said that you said that your mistress was still alive. Herr Gerhardt thinks she was killed by bandits, but you think she's been taken prisoner instead. You said she'd been kidnapped by a... Agnes leant in close to Henny. Then very quietly she said, Vampire. The word vampire was horribly out of place in the quiet servants' quarters. It sounded ludicrous, preposterous even. Henny could see with uncomfortable clarity why Walter had regarded her with such scorn when she had told him of Magdalena. Henny must have appeared crazed when she had begun espousing upon such grisly subjects which were unfit for ladies to dwell upon. But no matter how unfeasible that, it did not make it any less truthful. Yes, that's exactly it. I know that vampires exist. I've seen one with my own 2 eyes. I won't let anybody deny that, not even Walter bloody Gerhardt, even if he thinks me touched in the head. I'm not crazy. I'm perfectly sane. A vampire kidnapped my mistress. She kidnapped me too, but my mistress convinced her to let me go. Even now, she is still there in her castle, while that awful vampire does God only knows what with her. Micah risked her life for my sake. Helping her is the least I can do. But there's nothing I can do. I tried to talk Gerhardt around, but he won't see reason. He threatened to send me to an asylum if I keep this talk of vampires, and then I really will be in a pinch. I'm trying to be strong for Micah's sake, but I haven't the foggiest of what to do next. I feel like a headless chicken. And if you're anything like your master, you probably think I'm batty now too. Oh no! I don't think you're crazy, Henrica? Not at all. You don't? No. You might be crazy with concern about your mistress, but I can't blame you for that. You must love her a lot to fret this much. You're a very loyal servant. I was more than Mike's servant. I was her friend, too. We'd been together since we were children. She meant everything to me. She still does. I want to save him more than anything, but I keep running into dead ends. It doesn't seem like anybody in this place wants to help. It does sound very difficult, but you're not alone anymore. I believe you, even if Gerhardt doesn't. I don't think you're a liar, and I don't think you're insane either. This is why I wanted to talk to you, actually. It's because I heard about the vampires and, well... Agnes's doe-like eyes filled with determination as she said, I had to check first, to make sure Hermione wasn't telling tales. But now I know there's some truth to the rumours, I'd like to try and help you. Help me? Now, this was a surprising turn of events. Agnes, are you a secret vampire killer? Is that what your family secret was that Hermione brought up? That you were trained to be a vampire killer of generations of vampire killers? Like the fucking Belmonts? We are in Germany, it would make sense. There's weird families like that all over. Henny hadn't expected that Agnes would be so willing to swallow her frankly unbelievable tales of bloodsuckers, nor that she would be offered to aid her. What this aid entailed, however, was yet a mystery. Agnes was small and slender with limbs like twigs, and she was so very young. It seemed unlikely that she knew very much about the world. She might even have been more isolated than Micah had been. Agnes, unlike Walter, had no wealth nor any connections. She was just a maid, a simple girl from a poor family working for pennies to support her parents. While it was nice to be believed. Someone mentioned Castlevania? Yes! I haven't played the games, but I love the Netflix series so much. I'll say thank you for the head pats. Hi Zach, how you doing? Henny did not place much faith in her as a potential ally. She didn't want to get her hopes up prematurely, but she was intrigued. How could you help me exactly? Agnes must have heard the apprehension in Henny's voice, because once more she blushed. Oh no, you misunderstand. I wouldn't be helping you, not directly at least. I'd never be able to best a, vampire. Woke up, got doctors an hour, was going to lurk, but the autism mentioned special interest has awoken you. But I know somebody who can. And who would this be? If you want somebody to look for your mistress, somebody who really cares, you should go to St. Cecilia's this coming Sunday. There's a priest who sometimes gives sermons there called Father Dvorak. Dvorak. He's very open-minded. I'm sure he would listen to your concerns without questioning you. He must be very open-minded indeed to swallow stories about vampires in good faith. And Father Dvorak? Where does he come from? That's no name I've ever heard of. He's from Bohemia, I think. He's a bit of an accent, but his German is fluent, and his sermons are really quite good. My mother is very fond of him. She always used to take me to listen to him preach whenever he was at St. Cecilia's, which he isn't always. He would often disappear for weeks, sometimes months at a time. He's a vampire hunter. So he's a travelling priest? Agnes nodded. He's recently returned from a trip, though. I think he's in Augsburg now. You should be able to see him this Sunday, or at least I think you should. I'd be disappointed if you can't. I've been meaning to attend his sermon this Sunday, too. You sound very fond of this Bohemian true priest. Oh, I am! I can't sing Father Dvorak's praises enough. He's a real gentleman. He helped my mother a lot out, you see, after my father. Well... Agnes blushed hotly, as seemed to be her wont. I won't go into that. It's personal. You'll probably find out sooner or later anyway if you stay here long enough. Hermione likes to needle me about it, as if I'm somehow to blame for my father's actions. But enough about that. Father Dvorak listened to my mother's concerns, and he consoled her. He helped her through a very difficult time. I'm sure he'll be able to do the same for you. He sounds like a nice man, but isn't helping with family affairs rather different from hunting down vicious vampires? Well, my family's affairs are rather sensitive in nature. I'm not talking about a mere domestic dispute here. It was a complicated matter, but Father Dvorak helped a lot when I was sure nobody else could. He really is incredible. Is he now? Henny raised an eyebrow, but if Agnes saw it, perhaps she didn't, it was rather dark. She made no comment on it. Instead, she clenched her hands into fists and said with as much excitement as she dared, given the lateness of the hour. Yes, he gives spiritual guidance to anybody who needs it, but he also has experience dealing with unholy monsters. He even performs exorcisms. He's the perfect man for the job, and he's a priest. You can trust him. Well, I wonder... A ponderous Henny glanced away from Agnes, whose enthusiasm was almost palpable, to the window. Vampire's going to get whipped? If she's into that... Some people are into that kind of thing. I don't know. Maybe she likes that. It seemed highly unlikely that a single priest would be able to stop Magdalena, even one who came as highly recommended as this Father Dvorak. We don't king shame here? No, we do not. We do not king shame in these parts. Too much of that shit on the internet. Humans are fun people. Ah, Blue Cane Plus says hi, by the way. Hi, buddy. Always cool to see you guys. I hope you two are having a good day. Henny had seen how Magdalene had torn those bandits limb from limb in the blinking of an eye. It would take a whole fleet of men to stop Magdalena, and it was doubtful whether even that would be enough. But this Father Dvorak must have been better than nothing. Henny had little faith in Agnes's priest, but she would seek him out all the same. She did not stand to lose anything by a brief consultation, not when she had already lost everything she had cared for. All right then, let me speak to this highly esteemed father. Perhaps he can help. Henny only hoped as she gazed at the night sky that she had not left it too late. Micah felt weary when she awoke the following morning, exhausted after a night of uneasy sleep, which had been broken up with bad dreams. The gash upon the inside of her wrist still stung, though it had stopped bleeding. The gash was not particularly large, but it showed up starkly on Micah's skin, a thin ribbon of bright red which intercepted the whiteness of her arm. Micah sighed as she sat upright, shivering as the cover slipped from her bare shoulders. It was a cold, overcast sort of morning, the rays of light which streamed into her room, thin and grey. Briefly, Micah considered rising, dressing, and washing her face, but soon dismissed this idea. She had not the energy to go about her daily routine as though nothing was awry. The thought was almost unbearable. Micah's tiredness was something more than a physical feeling. It was entrenched within her mind, deeper than the tangled knots of roots which fed the mightiest of oak trees. Magdalena had not taken so very much of her blood the night prior, but Micah still felt drained. She still had blood enough in her veins to animate her arms and legs, but her body refused to move. She was too preoccupied with her thoughts of last night and of Magdalena. Though unwilling to admit it, Micah might have begun to grow fond of her captor. For a self-proclaimed monster, Magdalena's company had not been too unbearable. Not when she spoke to Micah of novels and of poetry. Micah had even begun to wonder whether Magdalena was a monster at all. Surely nobody who talked so animatedly about romanticism could be wicked. Why, Magdalena liked a lot of the same poets Micah did, and many more she had never even heard of. Magdalena spoke of the written word with such piquancy. That's a funny word. Hang on. A pleasantly sharp and appetizing flavour, spiciness. The quality of being pleasantly stimulating or exciting interest. Okay. It was really rather touching. At least until she had introduced a knife to Micah's wrist. Magdalena had not looked happy about this turn of events, however. Like picante? That's another word I don't know. Hang on. They might be from the same root word. Oh, yes, I see. Hang on, I'm gonna look at piquancy. I think it is from, I think it's an anglicization of picante. Actually, looking into it more. Just glancing over the two of them, I think it might be an anglicization. Don't quote me on that though. I'm not an expert. That's just my theory. She had been rather apologetic about the whole affair, but this served only to make Micah even more curious. Why had Magdalena drained her blood if she did not wish to do so? Micah turned this thought over in her head, stewing in it when... Excuse me? Micah's musings were interrupted by a rapping of knuckles upon her bedroom door and a familiar voice which spoke in an unfamiliarly soft tone. Oh, I'm not on my A game today, gamers. I'm sorry. It was, of course, Magdalena. Are you awake, Micah? And if so, may I come in? I've brought you your breakfast. Micah frowned at that and letting her arm drop to her side, cast her gaze to the door. Magdalena's nightly visits had been regular throughout Micah's imprisonment, but never once had Magdalena visited her in the morning. Breakfast high and iron, hopefully. I hope so. That would be very good. That's a very important part of the vampire aftercare. Micah had not known Magdalena was able to wander about in the early hours being a vampire. She had thought them sensitive to the sunlight. Oh, thank you for the stretchies, Hydra, and the hydrate. I think I'm a bit off my A game because I had singing yesterday, and that works the voice, that works the throat out quite a bit, you know. Not Micah supposed that it was a particularly sunny morning. Miserable would have been the most apt description for it. Indeed, it works the throat, yes, yes. Her bedroom was freezing. Micah? Magdalena's voice called through the wood once more, and though Micah had resolved anew to dislike her, she felt her heart quiver. Magdalena sounded less like an unconscionable Vic villain and rather more like an awkward, uneasy young girl. Why, she still sounded almost as ill at ease as Micah felt. Micah found she could not remain silent upon hearing this. Maybe Henny had been right about her. She was too soft. And so responded. Yes, I'm awake. And yes, you can come in. Micah's words were answered with the click of a lock. Her bedroom door swung open to reveal Magdalena, a tray balanced precariously between her hip and her right hand. Magdalena set the tray down, then turned to lock the door. Once it was secured, she brought it to Micah and said, Oh, I am glad to see you're awake. I was afraid you might be lying in your bed, passed out after last night's excitement. Oh, totally a tangent, but I found out that I have a pretty low red blood cell count and a pretty high white blood cell count, so I guess my blood wouldn't be very appetizing. Yeah, I don't think it would be very nutritious for a vampire, but maybe it would be like a delicacy, you know? Like caviar or something. Oh, I am glad to see you're awake. I was afraid you might be lying in your bed, passed out after last night's excitement. Is that what you want to call it? Well, I suppose I could be more direct, but it doesn't feel very genteel to talk of bleeding you like a pig. That is what you did, though, and it wasn't very genteel either. I know. I didn't much want to do it. But I don't suppose that counts much, really, when I still did it. I tried to be quick about it, though, and I cleaned your cut afterwards. I'd hate for it to get infected. It was awfully considerate of you, I'm sure. I'm being as considerate as I can, which I know isn't very, but look, I wouldn't be here to see you if I didn't care. Here's your breakfast. Are you hungry? Magdalena handed Micah the tray, which she accepted, the teacup shifting on its saucer. Micah poured herself a cup of fragrant tea with one weak, trembling arm, though she wasn't much in the mood for it. Micah didn't want to eat or drink anything. She felt too weary. Magdalena was looking at her with expectant eyes, however, and Micah didn't want to upset her. That would have seemed cruel, especially when she was trying so hard. I was wondering... Micah swallowed a mouthful of her tea. It was chamomile today, then looked at Magdalena curiously. What is it? You've been shut up inside this room for a long time now. Almost an entire fortnight. If I was in your position, I'm afraid I would have gone quite mad. Micah did not say as much. She was busy sipping her tea, but she did not want to discard the possibility. Her warring feelings about Magdalena did not point at all to a healthy mind. But then again,
Micah's mind had never been healthy, not in the way a young woman's ought to. I do feel sorry for you, keeping you cooped up like this. It can't be good for you. I would hate to make you miserable, or, well... Magdalena smiled bashfully. If she had been human, perhaps she would have blushed. But her pale cheeks remained chalky. More miserable than I am making you already. I don't want us to be enemies. I am quite glad of your company, in fact. And I've tired of this jailer and warden act. I think it might be nice if we engage in a pursuit that would be more conventional for a pair of young ladies. The word conventional put Micah in mind of her mother in the Von Essen drawing room and her horrid embroidery hoop. Her back stiffened, and with a frown she said, "Such as..." My, you're looking at me with such mistrust. I've no ulterior motives here, Micah. I've always been very upfront when I wish harm upon people, and I will continue to be so. What I say is what I mean. You have no need to second-guess me. I thought only that we might take a turn around the garden. It isn't much to look at now. You should have seen it 1 century ago, but it's less oppressive than this room at any rate. Not that's much of an accomplishment. Would you mind accompanying me? Magdalena's smile was light, but Micah could see something dark lurking beyond it. Not bloodlust, but a desire for something more intangible. Micah could still recall Magdalena's earlier claim that she cared about her, no matter how contrary her actions seemed to be. Did Magdalena feel guilty? Well, good. Magdalena should feel guilty. Should have felt guilty. She deserved it much after what she had done. That was what Micah wished to think, at least. But part of her could not help but pity her. Micah had been lonely, shut up inside her drab bedchamber. What of Magdalena? Surely she had suffered worse, and for far longer. Though Magdalena had come ostensibly to offer Micah a respite from her incarceration, perhaps Magdalena had been hoping for a bit of peace herself. That was why, after a pause, Micah assented. All right, we can go into the garden if you like. Though it's been such a long while since I last stretched my legs, I'm afraid I might have forgotten how. Oh, don't worry about that. If you do fall, I can catch you. I'm very strong, you know. Magdalena grinned, her sharp incisors flashing, and as she did, Micah was struck by a very strange thought indeed. Magdalena looked surprisingly, disarmingly pretty when she smiled. Oh dear. She's in trouble. Oh my goodness, look at that hat. Look at that hat. She looks like a Spaniard. Like a musketeer. How interesting. What a choice. Oh, it really is a dull day. Why, it's almost as gloomy outside as it was in. Magdalena sighed as she surveyed her garden, all that remained of it. She was wearing a wide-brimmed hat, presumably to shield her head from the sun's rays. But there was so little sunlight, this might have been an unnecessary precaution. Micah, meanwhile, gripped a parasol betwixt her gloved fingers. Magdalena had offered it to her before they left, to protect her pale skin, though this too had been a wholly unnecessary gesture. I'm starting to wonder whether this mightn't have been a fool's errand. There's not a single scenic spot in my home. I don't know if it would be much improved by a little sunlight. I've no stomach for it. But it would be less cold, at least. Now that was an interesting idea. Do vampires feel the cold? I don't know, but I can tell it must be chilly. If it wasn't, you wouldn't be shaking so much. Are you all right? I'm fine, I'll live. For the present, at least. For however long that Magdalena allowed it. I'm glad to hear that. Do tell me, though, if you feel a chill setting in. I wouldn't want you to catch a cold. We can go back inside as soon as the novelty of the great outdoors is worn off. Or alternatively, as soon as you feel your fingers might freeze. I will keep that in mind, thank you. My glove should protect me well enough, though, and I don't think I'm in the mood to go back just yet. Are you too busy enjoying the view? I don't know if the view is all that enjoyable, but there is a lot of it. Ah, yes. If there's one thing this grandpa doesn't want for its space. In fact, I think there's a trifle too much of it. The garden has been left to go to seed over the years, but can you blame me? There is only one of me. I wouldn't even know where to begin taming all of this. Magdalena gestured to the garden, which sprawled about her in a wild, unruly mess. All overgrown grass, decaying trees and wildflowers which swayed in the breeze. There was a fountain not so far away, which had once been topped with a stone effigy of Cupid. Cupid had since fallen off his perch, however, and he lay in pieces in the bases of the fountain. His shattered head spotted all over with lichen. The fountain itself, meanwhile, had stopped working many years prior. Its cracked basin was full of naught save loose leaves, dirt, and bits and pieces of poor Cupid's broken body. Past the fountain was a tangle of rose bushes, which had been left to run riot over the decades. Perhaps they'd looked pretty once, when there had been gardeners to trim them into regulation, but now they were quite wild. Bushes were more thorns than roses, though the few roses that still existed were impressively red. Scant splotches of colour against the otherwise grey landscape. The sky above the meandering pier, meanwhile, was festooned with clouds. It looked as though it might soon rain, and the air which snaked through Magdalena's garden was chilly. The sun was scarcely visible, though Magdalena still shied away from it. Though there was still precious little sunlight to be had, Micah was still curious. Was it really safe for Magdalena to wander about like this? Do you often wander around your gardens like this? With my captives, you mean? Or are you referring to the time of day? Both, I suppose. Well, let me see. To the first I would say no. I am not in the business of consorting with my captives beyond what is strictly necessary. It would not do to get too attached. Not that there's ever been much danger of that. You are the first lady I had the pleasure of spending time with. Perhaps that is why I've come over all sentimental. Magdalena shook her head as though bemused at her own antics. The breeze caught on her fair tresses as she did so her lovely hair fluttered about her shoulders. As for the second, no. I am not in the habit of pacing about during the daylight hours. I'm not particularly fond of the sun, an opinion which is shared among the rest of my kind. I find it quite unpleasant, in fact. If it were any brighter today than it is, I would not have ventured outside at all. I can just about bear it for the present, but the summer is perfectly vile. Magdalena pulled her face. She looked so very incensed. She induced Micah to laugh. So you usually spend the day indoors? Indoors and asleep, yes. I'm being quite naughty, really, consorting with you like this. It's long past my bedtime. Her cheeks, yes! She's so cute. They're adorable. Oh my god, I don't think Micah has realised that Magdalena has just asked her out on a date. Like, this is a little date. They're on a date right now. They're so cute. The cheek puff was so cute. Ugh, this is what makes me fall in love when I hate it. I fear that it is just like, there's nothing wrong with falling in love with humans and creatures and whatever way. And like, I think it's so cool. Like, I love a lot of people. Like, I'm in love with a lot of people, you know? I find myself loving so many people, and it toes the line between romantic and friendship love. And that's just normal to me. It's when it's all romantic love that's when I start thinking about it more seriously. But, you know, I'm in love with people all over the world, and I think that's so magical to have that much love in my heart and be one of the people who can feel that so much. You get it, Eve. I think it's really nice and I think it's normal to have love for people like that. I think it's healthy and good for me. Like, quite frankly, Eve, I love how fun you are. You're fun. You're very fun, and I love hanging out with you. And I love chattering away with you about all sorts of things. You're a very lovely person to be around. Yes, I have always been someone who finds it easy to fall in love with people. But I find that, like, to me, love isn't necessarily romantic. Sometimes you just love how a person exists in their personhood, you know? Sometimes I just love how a person exists. I love, like, it's one of the joys of people watching. Like sitting at a cafe and just watching various people around you. Like, especially cafes at malls, those are great for it. And you just see beautiful people, interesting people all around. Sometimes I'll see someone wearing a funny t-shirt and I'll go, that's the person, it's so fun, I love that person. Or sometimes I'll see someone like carrying their child and I say, I love that person, they're so nice, they understand that their child is tired and they're carrying them. Because being at the mall is tiring when you're a child, let alone an adult. And I think we need to... I'm a very lackadaisical person with the word love. I think it's good. I think it's very healthy to be open to the idea of loving the world. There's a lot of bitterness and sadness about a lot of things going on in the world. We need to fight back in any way we can, and this is the way I do it. And so I think that if you see a cute girl doing a little puffy cheek thing and you go, oh, she's so cute, I love her, that's so normal. That's actually really normal and healthy. That's totally fine to do. People's quirks. Persons are beautiful and seeing their little quirks so cute. Yes! You get to see a glimpse of who they are and it's magical. I did think it unusual that you came to my room this morning. Haven't you been able to sleep? I tried, but I was unsuccessful. Sleep seemed like a fool's errand, so I decided I might as well spend my time with you. Your company is more agreeable than being on my own when I have nothing to distract me save my thoughts. And what thoughts, may I ask, have you been ruminating on? You may ask, but I might not answer. That's so fun. You may ask, but I might not answer. What a cool phrase. That's so silly. You're being awfully nosy for a lady, Micah. Did your mother never tell you to keep your nose out of other people's affairs? She might have mentioned it once or twice. And you would do well to listen to her. We all have our secrets. Why, next you'll be asking me about my marriage prospects. Do you have any marriage prospects? Not anymore. Not that I'm aware of, at least. I was never much of a prize, even when I was alive. But now that ship has well and truly left the harbour. Magdalena's smile remained light, much like her pattering banter. But Micah thought it appeared somewhat strained. As she was examining Magdalena in the morning light, not that the morning was particularly bright, she could see how weary she looked. Magdalena's skin had been pale when Micah first met her, but now it seemed not entirely dissimilar to fallen snow. Magdalena was white enough to seem sickly, but her under eyes were dark and smudgy by contrast, as though they had been bruised. Was it from her own guilty conscience? Or else a lack of sleep? Maybe, Micah thought, the two were intrinsically linked. It was too much of a coincidence, surely, that Magdalena had lost sleep following last night's events. Let us talk no more on the subject of my love life. It's depressing to countenance, and deader, I fear, than the bandits I slew. What do you think of those roses? Magdalena paused by the untamed tumble of rose bushes which spewed beneath the fountain of Cupid. The leaves worm-eaten, but the roses themselves vast and untouched, like the red-lipped mouths of so many monsters. They are quite something, don't you think? They add a bit of colour to the place, at least. I think they must be the pride and joy of my little garden. They are certainly very vivid, yes. They are rather, aren't they? Perhaps I ought to pick a couple of them to commemorate our excursion. They would look lovely in a vase on your desk. Or maybe in your hair. At the very least, they might do something to alleviate how very desolate my home is. Oh, how beautiful. What a lovely art piece. Magdalena leant forward as she spoke, one arm extended. Micah watched as she made to pluck one of the large, heavy-headed roses out from among its brethren. But as she did so, Micah noticed something peculiar. The ties which fastened Magdalena's sleeves had come undone, and one of them rolled down all the way to her elbow, exposing a good deal of her fair skin. Her flesh was uniformly white, a smooth sort of paleness that was impossible to replicate with powders. With all the red and black, having that corsage of blue on Magdalena's hat was a choice. It is a bit, isn't it? I like to imagine that it's not her hat. She just was like, oh god, I need to use something to block the sun. And it was all she had. Like, I don't think she doesn't strike me as someone who wears hats frequently or has need for hats. Magdalena truly looked as though she had been made from falling snow, all compressed and compacted together. But it was not Magdalena's pallor which made Micah draw in her breath. What truly caught Micah's attention was a band of angry red welts which encircled Magdalena's arm. These marks were so pronounced, particularly against the paleness of Magdalena's skin. They looked like burns, or else. Micah's brow furrowed with newfound concern. Not for herself, but for Magdalena. Oh god, I can feel something in my nose. Hang on, chat. Like, the blue on the hat feels so deliberate, it can't not be, like, a very important choice, you know? Don't you hate it when you're just sitting there and suddenly your nose decides to make you aware of, like, a glob of snot in there that's just kind of sitting there and has been there for probably the whole day? But then it's like, this is really irritating now because you're aware of it. Her hair jewelry also says blue, doesn't it? I think it does have blue in it. It's very interesting, the blue contrast. I wonder if it's like a character design like element too, like the red is meant to invoke the fear and like bloodlust of a classic terrifying vampire, but the blue is like a hint to her true self, you know? Could be. I wouldn't put it past the character design in these games. She could not countenance how Magdalena had received wounds like this. She had thought Magdalena indomitable, impossible to beat in a competition of strength. Surely no human could have left such marks. These marks could have been left by an animal, Micah supposed, but Magdalena had dispatched of 4 fully grown men without blinking. Was an animal, even a wolf or a bear, be able to beast her? In any event, the wounds did not look as though they had been inflicted by any great hulking creature with a maw full of sharp teeth. They didn't look large enough. I suspect this is the shadowy figure. Though those marks were small in circumference, they weren't shallow. They were garish even in the weak autumnal sunshine, all puckered, raised welts which had begun to bruise. The rest of Magdalena's skin was pale as death, but these marks seemed almost akin to a tableau of violence. Who in the world had done such a thing to Magdalena, and why? How? Micah felt rather bewildered. Forgive me if I'm being rude, but I could not help but notice, Micah swallowed, tasting the cool breeze on her breath. She remembered Magdalena's earlier caution, even though she had spoken it in jest. Did you're being awfully nosy for a lady, Micah? Did your mother never tell you to keep your nose out of other people's affairs? But still, she wanted to know. It seemed important all of a sudden that she get to the bottom of this. Relatable. I am also very nosy. I remember one day I heard someone shrieking at the house next door and saying some very clear words about asking for help. And I'm a nosy bitch. So I went over to that house. There were a few other people who had come over to have a look. And it turned out to be a very mentally unwell woman who really needed to be in an institution. But they had kicked her out because I can't remember exactly why. I think she was she had been allowed to leave for some reason whatsoever. No one could figure out why they would let her leave because of what she needed help for, and how severe her situation was. And so we all just went over and did our best to comfort her parents, who were very distraught about the pain she was going through. And they didn't, yeah. I think she's gotten help again because I haven't heard her in a long time. But I am very nosy. I find myself doing that kind of thing all the time. You're curious, but your people-pleasing tendencies and fear of everything tend to override it. Honestly, that's actually healthy. To be like, you're taking care of yourself. I will just walk into situations. I said the other day to my mother that because I am a white woman, I can usually get away with a lot of things. So I usually put myself in the way of danger to other people. And hey, if I get stabbed about it one day, fucking okay, we'll just have to deal with it. If I get stabbed about it one day, whatever. It is what it is. Like, I don't think I'm going to change that factor of myself. I think that is going to be a part of myself no matter who I am. And no matter what happens to me, I think I will be that sort of person, but hey. And she laughed in that way she does when she hears me say horrible things, but she's like, you're just being real, so it's whatever. Good to be aware of your privilege, please don't get stabbed. I'm not trying to get stabbed. I will say that, I'm not trying to get stabbed. I promise. But I will often insert myself into situations that I seem like I can use my small white woman privilege to maybe de-escalate or bring attention to from other passers-by who weren't paying attention. Yeah. I also dress very, like, adorable, which heightens the effect, I think. There was something significant about the injuries Magdalena had sustained, Micah knew it. What are those marks on your arm? What? Oh. Magdalena drew back from the roses as though burned by them. Then she glanced down at her arm. When Magdalena saw that her sleeve had rolled back, her expression twisted. She didn't blush. Again, Micah did not think her capable of it, but roughly tucked her sleeve back down. Her expression was one of supercilious guilt, that of a naughty child caught out by her governess. It is nothing, really. Please, don't dwell upon it. How could that be nothing? It looks painful. It's fine. I'm a strong girl and I can look after myself. You, on the other hand, mightn't be so fortunate. You ought to worry more about your own affairs. But... Now, there'll be no buts. This conversation is beginning to tire me. It's not very interesting. Let us be on our way. There is more of my garden to see, after all. Micah, seeing it would be impossible to talk Magdalena around, capitulated. Sighing, she looked to Magdalena and said, Fine. Let's do that, then. Then we shall. I've much more to show you. Do try to keep pace with me, my dear Micah, or I'll leave you behind. Then you might never find your way back to my home. Would you care to take my arm to be on the safe side? That is very gallant of you, I'm sure, but I think I'll be fine. So you mean to spurn my affections? Oh, my lady, how you wound me. Magdalena's theatrics might have once have brought a smile to Micah's lips, but she felt too preoccupied with Magdalena's injuries to attempt anything approaching merriment. Distract. She's trying to distract her from the situation. She's like, well, never mind all that. Never mind all that. Let's do some other thing. And look how cute I am. Classic. Mike had seen those marks for only a few seconds, but now they felt imprinted upon her brain. That was not a sight she would forget in a hurry. Such wounds couldn't be dismissed as a mere trifle, no matter how Magdalena had tried to change the subject. Her hastiness to hide the marks had been concerning, as was her caginess. Magdalena was definitely hiding something from Micah, but to what end? Micah could not even begin to guess. I've said same to too many things in the game, but Magdalena, same. Yeah. One thing about Ebihime is she writes very relatable characters who are fucking messes. And I like it a lot. She's very good at that type of writing. That type of character. I don't think she's ever written a character that didn't have issues that weren't relatable to me in some way. Magdalena and Micah continued to promenade about Magdalena's expansive gardens, neither speaking more than seemed strictly necessary. I love that word, promenade. Promenade, what a fun word. We should use that more. Let me look it up so I know exactly how to use it better. It's just a leisurely walk. You could take a promenade down to the dairy shop. You could take a promenade down to the gas station if you really wanted to, or the convenience store. It's just a leisurely walk. Let's promenade more, everyone. Promenade. I'm going to take a shower, but I'll keep the stream up for when I come back. Oh, thank you, Eve. I appreciate it. Always lovely to see you. It's lovely. Always lovely to see you too, Eve. You're a treasure. Magdalena would pause at irregular intervals so as to point out various interesting features to her companion, but otherwise she remained silent, holding one hand to her head to prevent the wind from blowing her hat away. Eventually, however, Magdalena seemed to tire of their aimless wandering. The sky continued to grow darker as the minutes passed, and it soon began to rain, a faint patina of moisture which fell from the grey clouds above. Patina is fun. I kind of vibe what... It's not hard to figure out how it means in... A gloss or sheen on a surface. The impression or appearance of something. That's cool. I like that. Wishing to take shelter before a storm could begin in earnest, Magdalena paused by a bench partially overgrown by tall grass and took a seat. Oh, how lovely. That's so pretty. I like this piece a lot. Eve isn't here to get mad at me to be surprised anymore. Hang on. Sneak attack. Sneak attack. Sneak attack. Micah sat at Magdalena's insistence. Her parasol unfurled to protect the both of them from the continued rain, and looked at her companion with some concern. Magdalena had seemed animated enough when they'd been wandering about her sprawling gardens, but now her energy had deserted her. Her head drooped, her hat falling from it while her silvery hair spilled over her shoulders like moonbeams. Oh, I love this piece so much, guys. Look at it. Like, not just the pretty ladies, but look at the background work. Look at the rock. Not the rock, sorry. The column and the stones and the flowers, like absolutely stunning. Just so no notes. Perfection. And the intimacy of their pose is truly lovely. Then she yawned. A yawn so deep it brought tears to her eyes. The rain continued to fall about them, a steady pitter-patter, while Magdalena wiped her eye with the back of her arm. Oh, goodness me. Magdalena glanced at Micah, abashed but unblushing, her skin the colour of alabaster. I apologise. That was quite rude of me. I must seem so churlish inviting you out on a stroll like this only to yawn in your face. If I were a gentleman, I fear I would have little luck with a lady as fair as you. Why, you had every right to call me a bore. If you were a gentleman, I wouldn't be going for a walk with you unchaperoned in the first place. It would be scandalous. Yes, well, I suppose you aren't wrong on that account. That makes me feel fortunate, at least, to be a woman. Magdalena giggled, but soon it cleaved before yet another yawn. I'm sorry. I wouldn't blame you, Micah, if you wished to slap me for being so impertinent. I'm not bored of your presence. I could never be bored of you. But while I'm so very tired... It's all right. I wouldn't slap you on account of something so small. It's irrelevant. But I can't be the most stimulating company, surely, when I can scarcely string 2 words together. For a woman on the verge of collapse, you've been doing an awful lot good job at stringing words together. I would hardly know you were tired were it not for the bags beneath your eyes. And for the way you've been yawning, of course. Oh, of course. Magdalena let her hand fall to her lap, and there it rested. Sighing, she shifted closer to Micah. Then, I apologize, but would you find it horribly presumptuous if I rested my head upon your shoulder for a few minutes? It is very quiet and peaceful out here, you see, among Mother Nature's embrace. And I've been dying to get away from my home for the past week. It is so stifling in there I cannot bring myself to relax. Now that I am with you, however, I think I might be able to get some decent sleep. Or at least a brief nap. Then you mean to use me as a pillow? If you would be so kind. Don't feel like you must indulge me, though. I would not wish to inconvenience you. I worry the weight of my oafish head might not be the most comfortable burden to bear. Oh, no. You can use me as a pillow if you wish. I don't mind. As far as impositions went, it was not so very great. Not compared to those Magdalena had inflicted upon Micah already. You may do with me whatever you will. Now that is a very tempting offer. But fortunately for you, I'm too tired to fully indulge in the delights you might have to offer. For the present, I can think of nothing but sleep. Then sleep. I will watch over you. Like a guardian angel? Yes, if you'd like. Oh, how sweet you are. Magdalena sighed, then shifted. She let her shoulder press against Micah's, her head resting against her. Her pale cheek pressed against the fabric of Micah's dress, and her eyelashes fell shut. You really must be an angel to care for me so much. I deserve far more than a slap after all I have done to you, but... Shh. Micah ran her fingers through Magdalena's hair, her knuckles grazing against her companion's scalp. Let's not talk about that now. You're tired. But I've done so many wicked things to you, Micah. I don't know how you can bear to speak to me. How can you stand to touch me? I've done nothing to earn your kindness and everything to earn your scorn. Maybe so. But I'm not going to scold you for that now. Not when you're in such a state. And what kind of state would this be, pray tell? One which is hardly suited for continued conversation. It isn't very becoming for a lady. Please, rest. Is that not what you wanted? Yes, I suppose it is. I've wanted to rest for... oh, such a long time. For the last week, you said. It has been particularly bad this week, but I've been tired for longer than that. Longer than weeks, or months, or years. I can't say how long I've missed this sort of warmth. I've been alone for more than a century. It was almost more than I could bear. Until, I suppose, I met you. Your company has been most diverting. If you were to leave, I hardly know what I would do. Well, you've nothing to worry about on that front. I'm not going anywhere. Yes, I know you're not. You can't. I won't let you. Lena. Micah spoke softly, a nickname slipping from her lips despite herself. Yet it seemed unlikely Magdalena had heard it. Her eyelids were shut, her chest rising and falling, and save for the regular exhalations of her breath, she made no sound. She had fallen fast asleep. Oh, I'm going to sneeze. Oh, pardon me, chat. My sneezes are never delicate, I fear. They're always so dramatic. Oh, gosh. Magdalena slept upon Micah's shoulder undisturbed. Heedless of the cool breeze which caressed her cheeks and the rain which continued to fall, her pale skin remained cold and unyielding during her slumber, and her cheeks refused to pinken at the wind's behest. All the while, as she slept, Micah watched her, her fingers curled about the handle of her parasol. As they sat there, their bodies pressed close, Micah found herself wishing they could stay as they were. Time slowing, then stopping for good. Time did not stop, however, and Magdalena eventually awoke some half an hour hence. She did not speak of what had happened after drawing away from Micah, but she did suggest, after stretching, that they return to her home. The delights of her garden had been exhausted, and it was still raining. Magdalena had not wanted to remain outdoors when the weather was so foul. Micah had no words of complaint to offer, so she and Magdalena rose. Magdalena put her hat upon her head anew, and the two once again entered her vast, dilapidated home. Here we are. Home, sweet home. Magdalena announced this to the cavernous room full of decades' worth of undisturbed dust, then wrinkled her nose. That's what I would like to call it, at least, but it really isn't much to look at. I am always struck, when I see this place in the sun's light, by just how run down this place is. It's a wonder I haven't contracted a cough, having lived here for so long. I suppose we vampires are hardy sort, though. I do worry about you. The dust isn't irritating your eyes, is it? I'll be fine. Micah reassured Magdalena, though in all honesty her eyes were beginning to water. The air smelled fetid, and each inhalation made her nostrils, not to mention the back of her throat, tingle. She could taste the dust upon her tongue, so thick it turned her stomach. She had almost begun to acquaint herself with the general decay of Magdalena's home, having lived among it for so long. But the few hours she had spent outdoors had undone all her familiarity with her surroundings. Oh, hey, Potato! Thank you for the stretchies. Magdalena's abode felt strange and inhospitable once more, in part, Micah supposed, because it was. Humans weren't supposed to live like this, in unloved homes choked with old age and their own neglect. But Magdalena wasn't a human. Human needs did not apply to her, not when her own desires were so very unusual. Micah had learned during her walk that Magdalena did need sleep, however, a fact which made her seem more personable. In some ways, she mightn't have been so very dissimilar to a human after all. So, are you feeling all right? How's the visual novel going? It's going fantastic. We've learnt some juicy, there's some beautiful secrets that Magdalena has that we're so excited to come out in the open, and just like, it's going to be very interesting and fun when those come out into the open and are exposed for what they are. We don't quite know what's going on with the secrecy, but we know that she has a shadowy figure that she has somewhere in this house that she hasn't told Micah about. And the blood that she took from Micah just today, I say during the stream, she brought to the shadowy figure and didn't partake of it herself, I don't think. She isn't drinking blood, I don't think. I think she's giving it all to this figure. And during the walk in the garden, because it was raining, so Magdalena could go out as long as she had a hat, her sleeve came down and there were all these very humanoid bite marks on her arm. So there's something going on there. Henny is currently still at Air Gerhardt's home with the maids, but she has become close to a young maid named Agnes. I was saying that Agnes is a very good name. It's a bit old-fashioned, but I like it. It's solid to me. It's a sturdy name, you know. And Agnes has told her that she knows a priest who does exorcisms, and he might be able to help with the vampire, like help stop the vampire and get her mistress back. So we'll see. We'll see if Henny's onto something with this Agnes girl. Very exciting. Many developments today. Your face is very pale. My face is always pale. It comes with the territory. I've no blood of my own, you know, not like you. I couldn't work up a hearty blush even if I tried. I know that much, but your under eyes are still very dark. Oh, point out all my imperfections, why don't you? You have a way of making a girl feel rather exposed, Micah. I'm almost embarrassed. I didn't mean to embarrass you. I was only concerned. I know. You really are too nice for your own good. I doubt many other women would care for the welfare of their captors half so much. I mean, it's a bit easier when their captor is so cute. I mean, look at her little face. She's adorable. Humans are very weak to beauty. But you are not, as I've since gathered, a typical woman. That you would risk your own life for your maid is remarkable in and of itself. I'm not so special, really. I disagree. I've lived for a very long time, and I don't believe I've met anybody quite like you before. Not like that I've been in the habit of receiving guests during the last century, I suppose. I doubt my compliments are worth all that much, given my limited frame of reference. You may disregard them if you like. But I mean what I said. I don't tell lies. Why then, Micah longed to ask, did you not tell me about those marks on your arm? Why did you say it was nothing when it was clearly something? What are you hiding? Micah stared at Magdalena but found no immediate answers to her queries. It seemed that Magdalena's wounds would remain a mystery. Would Magdalena ever trust her enough to be fully honest? Or would Micah succumb to blood loss before that happened? That was an unpleasant thought. It was in a dour mood that Micah crossed the entrance hall, her footsteps echoing, and ascended the stairs. All of a sudden, she too felt awfully exhausted. Micah took the stairs slowly, Magdalena close by. She gave the banisters a wide berth, for they were so covered with dust, and instead kept her arms straight, hanging at her sides like a soldier's. The grand staircase had so many steps. An unnecessary number, or so it seemed to Micah. It was no small difficulty navigating them. Micah continued on, determined, placing one foot after another. But she felt unsteady. Magdalena, sensing Micah's exhaustion, surveyed her with some concern. And you asked whether I was all right. You seem positively dead on your feet. Are you sure you would not care for my assistance now, my lady? I'll be fine, Micah said vaguely as Magdalena proffered her arm. But this time Magdalena refused to take no for an answer. Oh, don't give me that. I won't have you slipping and tumbling to the ground, not down a staircase like this. Why, you could break your neck. It would be a quick way to go, if nothing else. Let's not be macabre about it, Micah. It doesn't suit you. Would you rather I smile? You're free from Spider-Man ads. The mansion looks clean. It is not clean. It is caked in layers upon layers of dust and neglect. I'm so sorry that you were given Spider-Man ads on my beautiful gay visual novel. It feels quite inappropriate. Yeah, they haven't cleaned it. It hasn't been cleaned. No, none of it's been cleaned. She has not decided to turn Micah into her personal maid. She is just keeping her locked in a room, reading books all day, and then she talks to her at night. She's a baffling woman. I get the feeling she doesn't think that a lady like Micah should do cleaning. They literally said that it was so bad that the banisters, she didn't want to touch like the banister railing, even though the stairs are so precarious, because it was caked in so much dust. Like it's nasty. Would you rather I smile? It was what Micah's mother had always demanded of her. Beauty and the Beast? It is pretty Beauty and the Beast. You're not wrong. It is pretty Beauty and the Beast. That's actually a great comparison. That might be asking too much, I fear. But I would rather see you all in one piece, yes. For a vampire, you're awfully considerate. I've got to take good care of my guests, haven't I? Or your prey. Those two states are not mutually exclusive. I love that. Magdalena spoke lightly, but Micah thought she could see a flicker of hurt passing across Magdalena's face. Her remark must have nettled her. There. Magdalena looped her arm through Micah's, cinching their bodies together like two entwined flower stems. Now you're less likely to take a spill as we ascend the stairs. And if I do, I would drag you down after me. Plotting to my demise, are you? I admire your brazenness, but it will take more than that to best me. And what of the creature that bit you, Micah wished to ask? Did that best you? Micah did not ask, however. She feared further inquiry would only upset Magdalena, and she did not want that. Magdalena might have been Micah's enemy, but she was also paradoxically her only ally. Micah had wanted to believe, still wanted to believe in fact, that Magdalena cared for her. But her caring seemed a fleeting sort of thing, something which could be discarded when she required more blood, which she would. Micah turned these thoughts over in her head, while slowly ascending the stairs, her arm entwined with Magdalena's. Oh? But a sound soon startled her from her morose reverie. A sound she could recall hearing once before when Magdalena first escorted her through the entrance hall to her new lodgings. It was a sound, though faint, of a scream. Micah's back stiffened. Her body tensed against Magdalena's, and rather than push the other woman away, she held her closer still. With wide, alert eyes, Micah glanced around. Magdalena had attributed these noises to the wind when Micah first heard them, but now Micah had always known, in fact, that this was a lie. The wind could not make noises such as this. And in any event, though it was a cold day, it was not blustery enough to procure such sounds. They must have emitted from a person's throat. This must be the shadowy figure that she's been feeding blood to. Oh. Though what horrors this person must have endured to scream like that remained a mystery. Magdalena? Micah looked at Magdalena anxiously, her eyes wide with curious fear. What is that sound? Magdalena, for her part, looked almost as fearful as Micah was. There was no surprise present upon her countenance, but Micah could see that she was gritting her teeth. Had Magdalena seen any blood in her body, it surely would have abandoned her upon hearing those screams. That sound is... Don't say that it's nothing. It's not nothing. I just heard it again. Whoever is making those sounds must be in a lot of pain. Or else they must be very distressed. And whoever said that it is a person who is making those sounds? It must be. I can't think of what else would be screamed so fitfully. And no, I don't believe that it is the wind. Do you have more presents locked away in this castle that you're not telling me about? Believe me, Micah, you would be far happier believing it to be the wind. No good will come from prying into these affairs. But I want to know. I know you want to know. That is the problem with you. You want to know everything. Well, I'm sorry, but I must keep some of my own secrets. I've been alive for over a century and have had an ample amount of time to accrue them. I doubt I'm alone in this. I'm sure you have some subjects you do not wish to speak of either. Magdalena's red-eyed gaze held Micah's, her irises hard and unflinching. Micah thought, as Magdalena stared, of Walter Gerhardt and their engagement and her feelings, or lack of, towards him, and she winced. Magdalena was right. She had plenty of secrets she didn't want to discuss either. There was a difference in the severity of these secrets, however. Walter was not, as far as Micah knew, currently incarcerated within the walls of this castle, screaming. If I am to live in this castle, I ought to know who else is residing beneath its roof. No, you really oughtn't. It's better this way. But... Micah, please. This is my cross to bear, not yours. You have no need to worry about it. Appeasing the mistress is my job. The mistress? Micah repeated this phrase, seemingly innocuous at first blush, yet containing within it a wealth of unspoken secrets. Oh, give Henny a treat. Oh, chat dwell on this amazing development of the game. I'll be right back. I have returneth. Ugh, she was outside enjoying the sun. Micah I've said this sentence, haven't I? Yes. So there was somebody else residing in Magdalena's abode after all. Somebody Magdalena referred to as her mistress. That must mean that this mysterious person, this mysterious woman, held some degree of authority over Magdalena. What, though, could be more powerful than a vampire? Who was this mistress? And why had Micah never met her? Why was she screaming so, as though she was being tortured? What is going on, Magdalena? That is not such a complex question, at least. Magdalena smiled, but it was an ill-fitting smile which hung awkwardly on her lips, like a dress which had been taken in at the waist 2 inches too many. She must be hungry. She's awfully insistent like that. I was hoping to put this off, but it seems I'll have to take more of your blood tonight after all. I'd wanted to give you a brief reprieve from your duties, but it is not to be. I have duties of my own to attend to after all, and my mistress can be very exacting indeed. I have to bring back the protective jumper. There we go. Micah sat upon the edge of her bed later that night, one arm extended at Magdalena's behest. It was the same arm she had extended to Magdalena the night prior, split with a thin scar like a garish piece of twine. Magdalena's fingers curled about the underside of Micah's arm to better hold it steady. In her free hand, the one which was not occupied with Micah, Magdalena held a knife. The blade sharp and silvery even in the weak, wispy moonlight which spilled through Micah's drawn curtains. Just hold still now. There's a good girl. I'll not take more blood than is needed. I can promise you that. This will all be over in an instant. Micah knew Magdalena meant well, but part of her wished that her captor's fingers would slip, and she would nick a major artery which would douse her skirts in her sheets bright red. I think I will have to end here because I don't think I can do the 2 of these triggering scenes in one stream. Apologies for that. Thank you all for putting up with my difficulties, and thank you all for another stream. It was lovely despite the struggle. Let's see who's around. Oh, Aki's live. Aki is doing her subathon. She is just hanging out and doing some art. Every sub adds an hour. She's doing some cute art of our friend Tempe. So let's have a good time with her. Thank you again for joining me, everyone. I do appreciate it a lot. And I will see you again the day after next, I think. Fuck, when was it? Goddamn, I will see you on Thursday. There we go.